All eyes are on Boeing today after after the company reported fourth quarter earnings, amid an ongoing investigation into its 737 MAX 9 planes. Boeing narrowed its losses last year, but postpones giving an outlook for 2024, with its CEO saying now is not the time for that. For a deeper dive into those results, Robert Spingarn, Melius Research Managing Director, and Eric Dezenhall, who is the Dezenhall Resources Chairman and co-founder, join us now here. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time here on the morning. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. And Robert, perhaps I'll begin with you, because ultimately, when we think about a company pulling guidance and actually just not even giving guidance, in this case, as Boeing has done, what does that signal about the actual reality that this company is navigating through?
Well, Brad, I think one thing here is they really never guided to 24. If you go back to their November 22 Investor Day, they guided to 23 and then also a longer term guide over for 25 and 26. That guide is for 10 billion in free cash flow. And I think that's where most people have anchored their valuation. So the fact that there's no guide here isn't really a suspension so far as I can tell, but it is more, it's just a deferral, if you will, because of the uncertainty. And I would attach that to not wanting to get ahead of the FAA. The FAA has asked for a freeze on the 737, arguably the most important product they do. And I think they're just being smart and not trying to get ahead of the regulator.
Yeah, Eric, when we heard Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun saying the fact that they're pulling guidance because they want to focus on safety, some of the other lines that stuck out to me in his letter here to employees, saying that the increased scrutiny is going to make us better, also that they have much to prove to earn our stakeholders' confidence. Eric, how would you grade the handling of this Boeing situation by Dave Calhoun so far?
Well, you have to remember how I make my living. It's crisis management. So it's not, there's a difference between damage control and damage never happened. Damage has happened. I think that he's doing a pretty solid job, and we shouldn't confuse how he's doing with the fact that there is a crisis. I mean, I think that they really have two things ahead of them. One is the tactical issue. What do you do about these planes? When you pull the planes from the air, which the government and the company has done, you cauterize the immediate safety problem. It's ultimately an engineering problem. People try to make it a PR problem as if communication solves it. But the fact is, you solve the engineering problem, you solve the immediate crisis. Second, you have a broader strategic issue, which is why are these things happening every few years at this company? The popular theory, and I can't confirm it, is that there is a cultural issue, a focus on money rather than making good planes. But whatever they do, they're going to have to talk about both the short-term tactical issues and the longer-term strategic issues.
And so with that in mind, Eric, I'll just follow up there. It's clear that they're going to have to communicate to some of their biggest customers out there that this is going to impact delivery timelines. And so what is the successful way that you would like to see management kind of being proactive about what the reality is for those timelines, how that's going to need to be adjusted, and the expectations that some of their business customers have, biggest customers have?
Well, I think in situations like this, people want to know two things. Are we going to be okay, and what are you doing about it? They're never going to be thrilled with the answer, but what people cannot stand is uncertainty, the idea that we have no idea what's going on. And so what I think is going to have to happen is they are going to have to grab a hold of as many things as they can reasonably promise without getting ahead of what they really know and getting ahead of regulators. Because, this is not all under Calhoun's control, which is one of the reasons I get so skeptical of this obsession the media tend to have with head rolling the CEO as if this solves everything. I really don't believe that it does.
So, Robert, let's talk about what this could mean then for share price going forward. You were still relatively bullish going into this print. We know shares have been under a tremendous amount of pressure, the worst performance that we have seen in the Dow so far this year. What's the catalyst then ahead? What is it going to take in order to turn around some of this momentum?
Well, one of the catalysts is potentially the earnings call today, depending on what they say about this 2025, 2026 target. Now, that may be potentially suspended as well. That's the right word to use there, because that's an existing target. And again, that's where investors are focused. So people will want to know if this 737 freeze can roll into, let's say, 2026. I don't think anybody realistically was expecting them to hit the $10 billion target in 25. And the good news is they did say this morning that the exit rate on 737 production is 38 per month. And that gets you pretty close. Even without the guidance, you can do the math. 38 per month on the 37, 5 per month on the 787 gets you roughly where consensus is for 2024. So if you do the math yourself, it's not that far off, which is why I think the shares are positive this morning.
Robert Spingarn, Eric Dezenhall, we have to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us here this morning, breaking down Boeing's report that we got. Again, shares moving higher ahead of the open, up just about 2%.